We're going to talk about the issue of spiritual warfare tonight, and I'm eager to do this because I want us to understand many of the principles that are involved in the issue of spiritual warfare. Before I do, a couple of things. I wanted to respond to a question, and that is, why does Grace Bible Church not use wine for communion, just like Jesus used wine in the last or for the Last Supper? I've experienced many Bible-based churches using wine at communion. Thank you. I don't have an email address, so I couldn't respond to that directly, so I need to do that here. There are some churches that don't use wine for communion out of legalism. I don't believe Grace is one of those, but there are some that just believe in total abstinence all the time for everybody. It's a sin to drink. Nobody should drink, and therefore you would not use wine in communion. Those churches that teach that would not use wine because it would be a violation of their convictions that drinking is wrong, so they wouldn't use it. Others might not use wine for other, perhaps more legitimate reasons, among which is a pastoral concern over the stumbling of people struggling with alcohol. If people who are alcoholics can't drink alcohol in any way, or they get sucked back into their struggle, we would not want to be an offense. I remember I was with one person one time in Israel where there was a tradition as tour guides brought pilgrims to Jerusalem for the first time. They took you on the Mount of Olives, and they would take a loaf of bread and break it and give everybody a piece of bread and then a small glass of wine. And the person who was with me panicked, saying, "I can't do this. I can't have wine. I can't drink. I can't have any wine." And they were actually tremoring with panic over, what am I going to do? I don't know what to do. And so I put my arm around them and I said, "Hey, it's okay. You don't have to have it. I won't have it either." And so we didn't have it. We took the bread. But the Bible doesn't say man shall not live by bread alone, but also by wine. It doesn't say that. We're not obligated to drink. That is not something that we have to do. And we have options, right? We have options today, like grape juice, that didn't exist in previous generations per se because of refrigeration issues. And so wine was the appropriate thing. We do know in the New Testament that there were people who did not drink any wine. That's why Paul had to tell Timothy, "Hey, take some wine for your stomach's sake," right? Because you're not using wine. You should drink wine. That would straighten out your digestive problem. And so obviously Timothy wasn't a drinker. He didn't use wine. Or Paul would have said, "Hey, take more wine for your stomach, not just take wine." So there are those kinds of issues. I know that there are some, and I can't answer for everybody that doesn't. Grace doesn't do it primarily because our tradition in the kind of church we are was generated out of fundamentalism that became cultural in many ways, and our origins are from we're highly influenced by the abstinence movement back in the 1920s. Remember when prohibition was passed and selling alcohol was illegal? At that time, many churches stopped using wine because it was illegal in many ways, or alcohol, I should say, was illegal. And so in order to stay away from any of that, many Christian churches stopped using an intoxicant, even though you're not serving enough in communion for anyone to get drunk, so that's not the concern. So it's generally a sensitivity to those who struggle. It's out of tradition that we don't use wine. There's not any biblical mandate for it. We certainly don't believe that it would be sin for us to do it. We just don't think it's necessary, and the symbolism of the blood of Christ in the cup is not intrinsically in a fermented beverage. That's not what is the significance of it. And so it's not necessary to use it in order to fulfill the symbolism that is able to be accomplished through the juice that is used. So that's why we don't. I think that there is probably the preponderance of the church history, wine was actually used. So this is an innovation, and therefore it's liable for the accusation that it is inferior. But I think that the pastoral concern about people who struggle is a higher priority. And so that's how we approach it. And I trust that those of you who really miss wine can, I don't know, nip it later. I don't know if that's something that you really need, which I'm not sure is true, but I think we'll just proceed as is.